stress, no?
Good evening, viewers. Welcome to this telecounseling. I am Uma Meduri from Faculty of Public Administration, School of Social Sciences. With me are Dr. Rajveer Sharma from Delhi University, Dr. Alka Dhameja from Faculty of Public Administration. Today we shall be discussing administrative responsiveness. Responsiveness, the term, in a general manner, it implies that answering or responding to some query, need, and at the same time performing or taking action to fulfill the needs or whatever is being asked, or responding in the form of an action. So, administrative responsiveness, the thing that arises is, why is it that suddenly it has assumed importance everywhere? Was that administration earlier was not responsive to the needs of citizens or to the needs of other stakeholders? Why is it that suddenly it has assumed importance? But on closer analysis and examination, it appears that it's not that before or earlier the organizations, public systems and administration was unresponsive. Otherwise, organizations by now would have fallen, or there would have been lot of problems that would have arisen in organizations. It's not that they were closed systems or so, they were all open right from the beginning, but the only thing that has changed now is there are lot many pressures that are being put on the system, on administration. So that's why now they are compelled to act in a different manner and be responsive and flexible, because they have to cater to varied needs of citizens and also assume different roles. So the concept of responsiveness becomes multifaceted, and it has several linkages with the concept of accountability, and then the role of the citizens in the entire process, and the role of bureaucracy, political executives, judiciary, media, civil society. There are so many aspects. So the concept of administrative responsiveness now has become very, very important, and it has assumed wider ramifications. So today now we shall be discussing in this session on the conceptual framework, the meaning and the way different dimensions of this concept of administrative responsibility. I would like to ask Alka, what exactly does the term administrative responsiveness connotes, and what are its different dimensions?
Thank you, Ma. Like you very rightly have explained the meaning of administrative responsiveness. Responsiveness, all our students know, is how to respond, how to reply, like you said, how to be answerable for your actions and deeds. So when you talk about administrative responsiveness, you talk about government's way of responding to citizens' queries, citizens' concerns and citizens' grievances. So responsiveness basically is government's answerability for its actions towards the citizens. But it is not a one-sided affair. The citizens who expect responsiveness from the government also have to be in the know of their rights and duties. They also should know about the limitations in which the government functions. So a broader definition of responsiveness takes the government on one hand and citizens on the other hand, and then try to see how they actually respond to each other. So this has been the definition of responsiveness ever since that we started with our administrative reforms procedure. But in today's context, as Dr. Uma Meduri has said, the connotation is a little different, as the providers are different. The providers earlier were just the government, and in the mixed economy setup of India, we also had private sector playing its role, but to a limited extent. But now we see that public sector is opening up. There are private sector which have entered the domain of government activities. Many things have been privatized, which were earlier only the bastion of the government. And also the other actors like the NGOs or the civic sector, as we say, are also entering into the picture. And there is a whole potpourri of service providers. So in this sense, if you juxtapose the the definition that I have mentioned earlier on the present context, you see that now it means the responsiveness of each and every service provider towards the citizens and also towards each other. So it has a lot of nuances and subtleties involved in the definition, and it is not a plain definition of one government or say one private sector being responsible to the citizens. So in the present context, responsiveness would include everything. It would include accountability, it would include responsibility, it would include trust, it would include confidence, it would include participation. In fact, it would be the entire administrative culture that we would be talking about. And I think, as Uma has rightly mentioned, that it is not that our system or our government or administration has not been responsive in the past. In fact, we've always strived towards responsiveness. It is another matter that we've not been able to achieve that kind of level of responsiveness that we had desired. So, no administration, no governance system can ever be non-responsive, because that is an inherent feature of an administrative system. So now when all these multiple stakeholders are involved in the process of governance, and the citizens are becoming aware and more conscious of their rights and more conscious of their demands and even aware of how to go about in getting them, responsiveness is very important, and responsiveness is slightly different from the earlier definition. Now, as far as the dimensions of responsiveness are concerned, and Dr. Rajveer will be elaborating on it later on, we normally talk about, as we all know, legislative responsiveness, which can be in the form of the parliamentary questions, the discussions, the specific motions in the parliament, the different committees that the parliament appoints to look into citizens' grievances and other governance matters. So, and then there is executive responsiveness or accountability, which talks about all the headquarter organizations being responsible for their field operations, how they supervise and monitor their field operation, how bureaucracy controls the street level bureaucracy and the grassroots organizations. Then there is judicial responsiveness, which Uma will also be taking up later, in the form of all those provisions which the judiciary can use to declare a law or a policy unconstitutional or ultra-virus if it infringes on the rights of the people. And judicial activism has become a very important thing today. In fact, judiciary has been performing its role much more than the legislature and executive, and there is a constant rift that goes on between the three organs of the government. But anyway, even the tussle and the outcome of the tussle leads to responsiveness. Then there is a fourth type of responsiveness, which I would say can be called responsiveness through public scrutiny. And like I mentioned before, public now is not the kind of public that we've had all these years. Earlier, we did not have involved citizenry. Basically, we were very happy about, passively receiving the goods and services provided by government and other sectors. But now the citizens, because our literacy levels are going up, the citizens are getting more and more aware and are demanding their rights and what their expectations from the governments have risen. Media also plays a very important role in the sense that media every day, most of the media channels have programs which deal with citizens' grievances. They highlight them, they involve citizens, and media has become a platform for the citizens to air their grievances. So this kind of public scrutiny which happens through the citizens, the media and the civil society actors is also very important, and maybe was earlier not included to that extent in the earlier definition of responsiveness. So responsiveness basically is how the government, and in today's context the other actors involved in provision of goods and services to the citizens, how these multiple actors respond to the public and see to it that their demands are met and their services and the goods provided are up to the level up to the mark. And this they do through various controls. There can be internal controls and external controls. Internal controls, every organization goes through its own setup. There is hierarchy in organizations. There is a unity of command. There is span of control. Through these kinds of mechanisms, organizations do try to control their employees and do try to see that they respond to the needs of the citizens. External controls are what I mentioned, can be done through public scrutiny, through the media. So this is largely a broader definition of responsiveness. There are people who think that responsiveness should be differentiated from accountability and again from responsibility. Accountability, many feel, is more external, and responsibility is more to do with your inner values. It has a normative connotation. But these kinds of differences, of course Dr. Rajvi Sharma will talk about it now, these kinds of differences I feel are very superficial, and basically what we want to know is, what we are trying to do is make government more accountable to the citizens. So accountability, I feel, responsiveness entails all these things, and we should not go into the semantics of the issue and really differentiate between the different facets of responsiveness, and try to look at a problem more comprehensively. Now coming to the question that Uma Meduri had raised in the beginning, that why is it that we are talking so much of responsiveness now? As our administration, as I mentioned, was always responsive. Then some of it I've already mentioned. There are many things that are changing. There are global pressures. The Bretton Woods institutions like the World Bank and IMF are trying to tell the developing countries to structurally adjust so that they can give their loans to them. So their demand is to overhaul the entire public sector system. So we are seeing a lot of public sector reforms. Public sector is corporatizing, it is opening up. We can see a lot of deregulation. Many other actors are coming into picture. Then I've already spoken about the media and how it is pressuring the citizens and the system, the governments and other actors to respond positively to the citizens' demands. Then most importantly, there is IT influx. Information technology has really brought about, I won't say a sea change, but a change to some extent, at least in urban areas. Now every government site has web portals, and it expects citizens can just go to the site and register its grievance or register its query, and the government official is supposed to answer those queries. So where there is an access to computers and where people are computer literate, information technology is playing a very important role. And moreover then, with all these changes like Citizens Charter Acts, which has really revolutionized the standards of service, and then the passing of the Right to Information Act, that has also made a lot of difference, and people are protesting and they are finding their manifestation of protests in the forms of various acts. So all these changes that are happening are making government work harder towards ensuring responsiveness. So I think the definition would be clear to you by now, and why we are talking so much about responsiveness. Now I would like to ask Dr. Rajvi Sharma about basically some of the points he would elaborate, that what are the attempts that have been taken so far to ensure responsiveness, and how it can be really improved in the present context.
Well, thank you, Alka. I think very basic aspects have been cleared by you and Uma very well. But let me state that so far as responsive administration is concerned, it is basically an extension of accountable administration. It is a broader kind of a concept, and you rightly said that there is no need to go into the semantics of the differences. But the fact of the matter is that responsive administration concept emerged because of the growing frustration amongst the people so far as the performance of bureaucracy and performance of administration was concerned. It was disenchantment of the people, and basically the bureaucratic the delays, the bureaucratic indifference, the suboptimal use of resources, corruption, and at the same time behaving like an autocrat and without really referring to the needs of the people. So it was to correct this scenario that this concept of responsive administration emerged. And I would 100% agree with you that this is not a new concept. In fact, directly or indirectly, they might not have given it a name of responsive administration, but that has been the concern of almost all governments right since ancient times till date, that administration really delivers the services to the people to the satisfaction of the people. And for example, if I am allowed to say that Kautilya's Arthashastra mentions that in the happiness of the subjects lies the happiness of the king. Now, there cannot be anything better example of a responsive administration than this, that where the administration doesn't really differentiate between the happiness of the government and the happiness of the subjects. So, therefore, it was in this context that the concept of responsive administration emerged. Second thing which I would like to say is that responsive administration basically refers to cutting edge administration. And it also refers, as you rightly said, that it is basically administration in action, but at the same time action to remedy the problems. It is a problem solving concept. It is a concept which really takes into account various aspects of the problems faced by the common man. So it is a citizen-centric concept. It involves that now it is not an autocratic kind of a decision making. It refers to democratic decision making. It refers to participative decision making, as you rightly were talking about. At the same time, I would say that it is also concerned with some kind of representative administration. Responsive administration, in fact, is representative administration also, because it really talks of the administration through the elected people of elected persons or representatives of the people, because it is considered that de-bureaucratization of the delivery of goods and services would be better instrument of a responsive administration. So responsive administration and the representative administration are sometimes used interchangeably. At the same time, I would put your concept a little bit differently when you said that it is basically a question of administrative culture. It is basically a question of attitude of mind. It is a question of administrative attitudes. And in that sense, I would say that it is a moral concept. This responsive administration is a moral concept. Now, in order to provide hassle-free government to the people, in order to provide the services to the people more efficiently, more effectively, and in a cost-effective manner, we are talking about responsive administration, that it should really take into account, they should respond to the felt needs of the people rather than acting as the masters and the guardians of the interest of the people. They must in fact act as partners in decision making. So administration has to be democratic, and I perfectly again agree that it is basically the democratization of the societies, the role of the free press, judiciary, and the development of various other factors which has led to the emergence of this responsive administration. In India, the focus on responsive administration in fact was felt since 1996. When there was a Chief Secretary's conference on the action plan for effective and responsive administration in the country. And they prepared an action plan in 1996. It was again in 1997 that there was a Chief Minister's conference to ratify this action plan prepared by the Chief Secretaries. And since then, a number of steps have been taken to make Indian administration responsive insofar as efficient delivery of services and goods is concerned, or effective delivery is concerned. The first question that comes up is that a common man at times is very much perturbed about the indifference of bureaucracy, and therefore there is a piling up of complaints against either inaction or no action or delays, or merely asking the common man to have rounds of the offices a number of times. So against the very agencies, providing services, like whether even if it is the connection of electricity meters, a common man doesn't know basically as to why there is a delay, and despite the fact that he has deposited the required fees and all formalities have been completed, and even then the meter is, say for example, hypothetically is not installed. Now such kind of grievances leads to irritation in the relationship between the government and the citizen, and the administration and the citizen. Therefore, if you really want to remove the irritants in the relationship of the administration and citizen, and if you want to really promote some kind of a cooperation, understanding between the two, then it is necessary that there should be some mechanism to redress public grievances. Now, a number of steps have been taken even in this regard, that public grievances should be redressed, and beginning with the establishment of a director of public grievances in the cabinet secretariat, and each ministry at the level of the center and in majority of the states have also appointed the directors of public grievance redressal for that purpose. So therefore, a mechanism, a machinery for redressal of public grievances is in existence. At the same time, there are certain other forums as well which deal with the questions of delivery of service, or you may say even the provision of justice to the people, or the redressal of grievances. For example, as you were talking about, that there is a growing awareness amongst the citizenry, and one of the results is the consumer movement in the country, and consumer movement in fact is the result of not only law but also the global kind of pressures, and also the pressures from the civil society and the pressures from the press, as the consumer should be treated in fact as the king. Whether he is or he is not is a different matter, but the efforts are being made that the consumer should really be treated as a king. So therefore, responsive administration in fact accepts the sovereignty of the citizen, right? And if the sovereignty of the citizen is accepted by responsive administration, then the movements like consumer rights or human rights is one of the very positive kind of developments in the country, where the interests of the helpless even are protected. The rich and the powerful can protect their rights anyway, but the law must apply equally to all is the basic essence of responsive administration. That is, equal treatment of all people in the eyes of law is one of the requirements of our responsive administration. There should not be any kind of arbitrariness in administration. There should not be any kind of discrimination. It is because of these arbitrary decisions and discriminations that grievances crop up, that grievances emerge. And therefore, against this arbitrary use or abuse of power or discretionary powers, the redress system has been established. Another step that has been taken is that apart from the consumer courts and the district consumer forums which have been set up, is that we have also provided for the speedy justice to people, and also that amounts to the redressal of grievances also. One of the grievances of the citizenry had been for a very long period of time that the justice is very much delayed, and the cases keep on pending and they don't get justice. And therefore, to deal with these kind of issues, not only that the judiciary is responsive to this kind of a demand. But Lok Adalats have been set up, and the Lok Adalats in fact are serving as an instrument of both the delivery of justice on a speedy basis, and also as a mechanism therefore of the redressal of public grievances, if I can say so. And at the same time, not only that the Lok Adalats have been set up, but they have been set up in those agencies which are interacting with whom the people interface quite frequently, like, you know, the telecommunications, like railways, like posts, like electricity, with whom the common man interacts almost on daily basis, and therefore many cases pile up and complaints pile up. So therefore, to deal with those issues in a speedier fashion, these Lok Adalats are doing a good job. Apart from this, it was also found that we must have the Citizens Charter, as you were pointing out, and we have now established this mechanism of Citizens Charter in the central ministries, departments, and also at the level of the states. So therefore, this Citizens Charter in fact is one of the guarantees for many things. One, that the action and decision of the concerned department or organization or agency or ministry would be open. It would be made open, it would be made much more, advertisement would be given, so the people are aware of what services are being provided by this organization, of what quality are they being provided, in what time frame they are being provided. So therefore, standardization of services, the open and transparent kind of a decision making, and also the appointment of an officer who should be contacted in case the Citizens Charter is violated. So in a way, it is a system which emphasizes on innovation, it emphasizes on improvement, and it also functions to in fact correct the wrongs. In fact, it is a system. Responsiveness is nothing but to admit that wrong has been done and to take corrective steps so that that wrong is rectified. That is responsiveness, that we accept that wrong has been done somewhere if it is pointed out, and to rectify or to make it work, that wrong is removed. It is in this sense that this Citizens Charter functions. But at the same time, we find that there are at times, though it is not that it is always in all cases and in all organizations, but the fact is that at times the system exists, but is still it becomes a victim of the bureaucratic functioning and bureaucratic behavior and bureaucratic procedures. For example, we find that even in police there is a Citizens Charter. In each police station there is a board, but a common man doesn't know where it is placed, and therefore he doesn't know what is in fact is the Citizens Charter of the police, or what services is he entitled to from the police station or say from the district police. In fact, that should be very widely displayed, and it should be displayed in a manner so that anyone can read and know as to what are the services the police station or the district police is going to provide, and what remedies the citizen has if there is a violation by anybody of that Citizens Charter. Similarly, there is no allocation of money to propagate the concept of Citizens Charter of a department or of a ministry. In fact, there is a need for providing some kind of monetary assistance to the ministries and departments. There should be some allocation separately of the money. That is not there. So the expenditure on awareness generation is almost non-existent, and therefore that is also acting as a hindrance. The third is that there is a need to train. There is a need to train even the officials about the concept of Citizens Charter. It is not merely a technical exercise that you purchase a board or you purchase some kind of a canvas and write some kind of a mission statement and your job is over. This is not Citizens Charter. Citizens Charter is where the officials understand the goals, the officials understand the philosophy, the officials understand the rights and claims of the citizen on them. That is what Citizens Charter is. So therefore there's a need to change the mindset of both. As you rightly said that even citizens should understand the limitations you were saying, and I agree that we must also appreciate the constants. But most of the time the citizen is at the receiving end, and the administration takes it as if it is their right to treat the citizen the way they like. It is in this context that this Citizens Charter was conceived, and this Citizens Charter was implemented also.
So, Dr. Rajveer, I think three things what I have deduced from your so lucid, discussion on administrative responsiveness. In fact, we all wonder what exactly is the difference between the earlier connotation of responsiveness and the new connotation of responsiveness. Dr. Uma also earlier mentioned that it is changing, but from your discussion, at least now we know that at least in three senses, I feel it is definitely changing. That I actually feel that earlier administration, and I hope you will agree with me, administration was so concentrated on organizational efficiency, internal reforms in organization, that it was not really taking into view the larger picture of environment. And like you said, that environment is changing because administration is really taking into cognizance of what is happening at the level of citizens, at the level of media, at the level of information technology, at the level of global reforms also, like you said. So it is responding to the environment, and this is a sea change from the earlier definition of responsiveness, which I think was more managerial and more, organizational. Now it is more integral. It is more in harmony with the environment. And I think slowly and gradually we would see some changes being brought about. And you have also pointed out the shortcoming, and also again a change from the earlier definition to today's definition about sustainability of reforms. Earlier reforms used to be there, but no efforts were made to actually sustain reforms, in the sense that, like you said, that citizens' charters are there in the offices, but neither the police knows about it or wants to show it to the citizens, nor citizens take any interest in looking at the citizens' charter. So the thing is that reforms on paper look very good, but if they are implemented in the right earnest, and if people are in the know of it, if they can utilize those reforms, they can make administration more responsive. So the sustainability of reforms and the government's and other service providers' desire to interact with environment are the two changes that we see from the earlier definition of responsiveness to the more contemporary definition. And the third point that you said is also very relevant. You've talked about the moral changes that need to be brought about, because we all feel that attitudes are very difficult to change. Even through training, we can't really unlearn what we have imbibed right since childhood. So the attitudes have to be changed at the level of the government, at the level of the citizens, and at the level of other actors who interact in the process of governance. So I feel like you say, like you've also mentioned, that we have to get rid of this chalta hai attitude that we have. We ourselves go and pay bribes, and then we try to exonerate ourselves by saying ye to system mein aise hi chalta hai, so we have to do it. So this is what even the codes of ethics and the professional service books and all that have to actually change their tenor, and they should try to amalgamate the conflict between individual ethics and the institutional ethics or the professional ethics. They have to tell the administrators or the governors what to do in case of a crisis, because sometimes bureaucrats know that there is a conflict, but they are unable to, by bypass the rules. So rules become more important than the action. And you've already mentioned that, responsiveness came up because of the initial hiccups of bureaucracy and, people's disenchantment with the system and all the red tapeism and delay the bureaucracy was causing. So all this led the people to think that there could be other ways of provision of goods and services, and they started looking at the non-bureaucratic service providers, and that's how so many actors came into the process of governance, making responsiveness more complicated. Another thing, before really Uma I think wants to intervene, before that I would like to mention that here the responsiveness of other actors, I mentioned in the beginning also, is also very important. Not just the government and not just the citizens. Even the private sector has to be very responsive towards the citizens. And this is happening also in the form of what we know as corporate social responsibility. The corporate sector is also now gearing up to change its policies and change its decisions to suit the environment in which it's functioning, and also take into view the people who are affected by it, especially through environment impact assessments. Many organizations are doing so much to treat their effluents. Many industries have now water treatment plants, effluent treatment plants. So this is also a part of corporate social responsibility, and I think other actors are also getting into this picture and being responsive towards the citizens as well as the government. And so is the civic sector, the NGOs, the service groups. We can't really think that anything that is non-government will be more ethical and more responsive automatically. Once you are in the governance process, like Dr. Rajveer Sharma said, all the problems and shortcomings of ruling or of being responsive and of being actually involved in the entire process of governance comes into play. And these shortcomings affect not just the government but also the other actors. So we can't really say that all NGOs are moral or NGOs are responsive as compared to government. There have to be standards, like we have citizen charters. There have to be proper standards of service for all service providers. So I think this way, if we talk about the various shortcomings that we are facing in ensuring administrative responsiveness, we can say that let's not make it a thing of too many cooks spoil the broth. If there are too many actors in governance, then they should coordinate properly. There should be less overlapping. There should not be blurring of boundaries, because power dynamics would now play a more complex role in the present scenario. So I feel these kinds of shortcomings have to really be looked into if we want to address the problem of administrative responsiveness.
Well, as Alka has rightly said, like administrative responsiveness, the entire concept and practice has assumed such varied complexion. Like it's not just the citizen is looking only towards the administration. Like the entire scenario, generally when we talk of administrative responsiveness, suddenly like it might appear that there is need to bring changes in the procedures, rules, regulations, as Dr. Rajveer Sharma, as Alka had mentioned. Like responsiveness involves not just bringing about these changes, but changing the entire work culture, the way the public organizations are functioning. Because now in the present scenario, there are 2-3 important dimensions which have come up. Now there is a demand side where the citizens are demanding some sort of a specific services of specific quality from the service provider. So we have two different things: service provider, service user, demand side and the supply side. And at the same time, amidst all this, there is a citizen's voice also. Wherever the service be provided by an NGO, a community-based organization, government, private sector, anything, now the citizen's voice is assuming increasing proportion. So now administrative responsiveness involves many things, like it is not just bringing about a change in the system, the way the system is functioning, but also the way the various components of the system, the way how the administration or the bureaucracy is functioning, the political executive is functioning, the judiciary is functioning, and the private or the corporate sector is functioning. Like we all know how judicial activism is increasing day by day, but at the same time it is also posing a lot of problems. So as Alka has rightly said, since we have too many stakeholders in the entire process of governance, in which responsiveness is a key component, like we need to have a proper mechanism or institutionalize certain things where there is no duplication of efforts and there is coordination, with the ultimate goal being to be responsive to the needs of the citizen and see that at the end of the day the citizen is happy and contented with the services being provided by any stakeholder. I would like to thank Dr. Rajveer Sharma and Dr. Alka Dhameja for giving such interesting and very in-depth insights into this entire concept of administrative responsiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.